Hey everybody, it's Mitch Axelrod from the Fab Four Free For All podcast, here with another Fab Four Free For All finds video. As we all know, collecting Beatle memorabilia can be really confusing. And hopefully, after viewing this video, some of the confusion will go away. And maybe some of the confusion will only get worse. I hope not, but let's get into it and see what happens. Today, we're going to be talking about the Beatles Subsidiary swirl label singles. You might be saying, what is the Beatles Subsidiary singles, swirl singles labels? Well, a couple of things happened in 1968, and that's where our story begins. Capitol Records and EMI had a restructuring, and Capitol Records Inc. became Capitol Industries Inc. You with me so far? Good, because this plays an important part of the story. So the labels, they decided, would have to change to reflect the new corporate title. All right, that's number one. The second, well, you know what? The label actually would read, manufactured by Capitol Records, Inc., a subsidiary of Capitol Industries, Inc. So right away, there's your subsidiary. But the second thing that happened in 1968 that was really, really important, and that adds a lot to the story, is that Capitol retooled all their record pressing plants to make non-slip discs. And I'm not talking about lumbar. At our age, I have a lot of slip discs. But in terms of record collecting, the discs were 360 little notches around the perimeter. And you could hear it when I do that. Now, what these were, if you remember, you know, how your old turntable used to work, you used to have a record on top of a record and you'd wait for it to fall down to play. Well, if the one was on the turntable already had just played, the second one would go on it and it would interlock with these ridges, so it wouldn't slip and it would play correctly. All right, so that's what this is all about. So two things, again, the label changed, the name, the corporate restructuring, and the fact that they were doing these 360 notches around the perimeter all contributed to more confusion. Okay, so you with me so far? The labels were changing on August 1st, 1968. All right, so let me just start right now by telling you that this whole subsidiary label change only lasted around 10 months. So even though the Capitol swirls with the ridges are not first issue, they're much rarer because everybody went and bought the first issue, millions and millions of people. But in 1968, not that many people were going, well, I shouldn't say not that many people, but less people were going out and buying them for the first time. And so the ridges are really much more rare if you can find them. So to make matters even more confusing, there were different variations of these labels. Let me get into that. So there are actually 4 different versions of these subsidiary labels. I'll state them first and then we'll look at a couple of examples because I don't have them all because I haven't been able to find them all. But let's see what happens. There's a West Coast made in LA with white perimeter print. All right. Want me to stop and you can write that down? I'll put it in the comments as well. Then there's an East Coast made in Scranton, Pennsylvania with white perimeter print. That's 2. Then there's a small print label with white perimeter print, usually made in LA. Usually made in LA. Here we go. And there's an East Coast with black perimeter print. And that was only done toward the end of the subsidiary label run. So those are even more rare if you could find them. I don't have any of those. So if you want to get one and maybe send it to me, well, you know, I'll have it for my collection. If not, keep it for yourself because these babies go for a lot of money. I mean, a lot of times you can find them on auction sites and people have no idea that there's ridges or subsidiary, and some people do, but it only makes going on like eBay and stuff crazy because then you're looking at there's a million Beatle records. Now you got to look at everyone and go, oh, is it a swirl? Can I see ridges? I mean, it's nuts. But when you do find them, it's worth it because They go anywhere from, again, on the low end, very low end, if they're in bad shape, $25. And on the high side, you'll see them on eBay. It doesn't mean they sell for this, but they go for like $200. I usually find them in the $50 to $75 range, maybe a little more if it's, a certain small print or whatever. Or again, I've never found a black print, so I can't tell you what those go for. I would love to have one in my collection. But so again, I want to show you a couple of things. If you can see, that is a small print. You see how small that print is for And I Love Her? It's ridiculously small, right? And there's ridges, as you could hear. And it usually came in this sleeve, which was at the time the sleeve of the period. All right, so that would come in there. All right, now what I just showed you was the small print with the white perimeter print. If you can see the bottom, it's got white perimeter print. Okay. And that was made in LA. And that's And I Love Her. Okay. Then I'm going to show you an example of an East Coast large regular print. See, regular size print with white perimeter print on the bottom. All right, and this again has the ridges. And it once again came in this sleeve. You're not always going to find them in this sleeve on auction sites or wherever, but it's nice when you do have them. And if you do find them and you don't find them in the correct sleeve, you can find these sleeves all over eBay and match it up if you want. Not all of these 45s, all the titles were actually made in all four variations. That gets even more confusing. And it's like an old Abbott and Costello routine. It's like, are you with me so far? You know what I'm talking about? Because I don't even know what I'm talking about. But yesterday was the only one confirmed to have all four variations. And I Want to Hold Your Hand has never been confirmed on a subsidiary label with the ridges. Whether it's black print, small print, white print, doesn't matter. It's never been confirmed. So, who knows? If you find an I Want to Hold Your Hand with subsidiary print or with ridges and it has subsidiary print, please alert Bruce Spicer, number one, because I got a lot of the information from his books, which are all great, by the way. And then alert us, and we will alert him, and you will have something really rare. One thing for sure is that if you find a capital swirl label with the ridges, and it's very easy to spot. I mean, you can do this with your finger. Don't do it a lot, though, because you'll ruin the record. But if you have a Beatles, and again, these were done for all capital 45s of the period, but if you have a Beatles yellow and orange swirl with ridges, you are 99.999% going to have a subsidiary label, which is good for you, because you probably are going to all go now check your collection and say, oh, I have one because I didn't even know, because you probably bought them and didn't have any clue about subsidiary labels. That's easy for me to say. And it just makes the whole collecting world topsy-turvy. It's kind of cool, though. So, because again, I didn't even know about these. And then when I found out, I really had to have a bunch. And I have about 7 or 8 now. One version of each. I don't have a small And I Love Her and a big And I Love Her, or a small Hard Day's Night, big and Hard Day's Night, or black perimeter print and white perimeter. I just don't have all the variations, and I don't plan on getting them because it's impossible to find. It would take me forever to find them all. And Bruce Spicer's book, The Beatles Story on Capitol Records, Volume 1, does have a chart, at least at that time, confirmed for which, and I'll throw the chart up as well, I think, which were confirmed for these subsidiary swirls. And don't forget, after 1968, Hey Jude came, Apple label came, so subsidiary swirl was gone. But something interesting for Beatle collectors to go out and collect. I guarantee you have some. Excuse me, if you do, just let me know. Let us know. Throw it in the comments. Say, hey, I had one. Good for me. And I'll applaud you as well. And another little well, another little gift from me to you. If you go and send an email right now to fab4freeforall@aol.com. That's fab, the number 4, free, the number 4, all @aol.com, and put in the title subsidiary label. Spell it right, because if you don't spell it right, you're not entered. Just kidding. I don't even spell it right. But if you send the email and it says subsidiary label in the subject line, you will be entered to win a subsidiary label 45. I happen to have an extra one, and I'm being very generous. It's in decent shape. So you know what? I want you guys to have one, because you know what? I'm getting older and I can't take them with me. I could, but you know, I want my kids to have them sell for $3 down the line, because you know they will, right? So again, that's fab, the number 4, free, the number 4, all @aol.com, and you will be entered a chance to win a subsidiary label 45. All right. And please, the contest will end November 15th. So that's about a month from this taping. So please, November 15th is the deadline, and you may win a subsidiary label Beatles 45. So I hope this clears things up. Let me just reiterate and summarize a little bit. Capitol had a restructuring. Capitol were making ridges on the 45s. The labels had to be changed to reflect the new name of Capitol Industries, Inc., which was manufactured by Capitol Records, Inc., a subsidiary of Capitol Industries, Inc. And the ridges were done, so the labels had to be smaller. They did this August 1st, 1968. Different versions, 4 different versions, like I said. Go back, and I'm not reiterating those, but there are 4 different versions of these subsidiary labels. Good luck finding them. Also, I have seen on some auction sites, and people trying to sell them for ridiculous money, the older labels were put on ridges by accident, because some of the plants just didn't know. And it's so obvious because the older label is bigger and the ridges are indented in the label. So the label will say not subsidiary, but you'll have ridges. So that's kind of cool. I've only seen one in all my years of collecting, and it was an obvious mistake by the plant, but maybe you have one of those too, or maybe you'll find one of those. And if you do, it's just as rare. So again, all fun in collecting Beatles memorabilia. So this has been your confusing or non-confusing video on the Beatles subsidiary singles. I hope you have some knowledge now to go collect them. And next time, my video will be about a recent celebration of a key record in Beatle history, which turned out to be Love Me Dupes. It went from Love Me Do to Love Me Whoops. We'll get into that in the next edition of my edition of Fab 4 Free for All Finds. Thanks for listening, folks. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk soon. Take care.